Hello and welcome to Raising Those Spirits. I'm Steve.
I'm Sam.
And sorry for the delay, but spooky season took precedence and I was feeling a cold coming on, so I decided to rest and not record so that I could run around and enjoy Halloween. And it
There was
worked.
a chill in the air and a sniffle in the nose.
No regrets.
You have a good Halloween, Steve?
I did. My son's hilarious just because, he is an introvert. And so, halfway through Halloween, halfway through trick or treating, he's like, "All right, can we go home?" I have met a lot of strangers. Every house we walked up to, he's like, "Who lives here?" And I was like, "We don't know these people." And he's like, "Then why are we going up to their door?"
Smart kid, honestly.
I know. I was like, "Look, I don't want to discourage you, but when you're with us and it's Halloween, this is okay."
This is the day each year we get to do this weird activity, and it's okay. This is the one time. Every other year, every other day, it's stranger danger. This day, totally cool.
Yeah. Today we assume they're chill for some reason.
It's true. We don't know.
Yeah, I'm like, this seems like a quaint little neighborhood. Sure. Let's let's just do this.
Let's just do this. We'll hope for the best. Probably no poison apples.
How was your Halloween?
Oh, ours was good. We did some solid trick or treating. It's attempted to go with the dog, which I've learned is just this is the second year we've had the dog at Halloween, and it just doesn't work. Um, because she gets way too riled up. She doesn't know what a costume is. She just thinks there's like monsters everywhere.
Yeah.
Um, so I ended up having to walk her home in the middle of trick or treating, and then meeting back up with my wife and daughter. Um, That worked out fine. It got me a little bit extra exercise. What was really nice is I've been living in this neighborhood kind of a long time now. And my daughter's in second grade. She's lived in this neighborhood basically her entire life that she can remember. And now I feel really like tied into the town. Uh, while we were walking around, I saw plenty of kids I knew from her school, and I was like, "Oh hi," and they're like, "Oh hi." Adult I know. So I felt very ingrained in my community this Halloween.
I had a similar and yet different experience in that we walk our neighborhood a lot, back streets, especially when my son was really young. During the pandemic, we would kind of go just like walk the back streets to get out of the house. And so, especially since it started during the pandemic, I don't know a lot of the people in the neighborhood, but I know all their pets because everyone around here has a dog. And I know all the dogs' names, and I know all the cat. You know what I mean? I just know all. We stop we have dogs that will hear us and like literally run out and run up to the street to see my son because they love him. And
That's
so
cute.
it's cute, but like I was going up to people's houses. Like there was this one guy who got home right after we had hit his house, and they'd left out like a bowl, and we were coming from across the street. And he was like, "Oh, did you come over here?" I was like, "Yeah." Yeah, no, we just came from there. Griffin supervised. Griffin is the name of his dog, and this guy just looked at me like, "Who the fuck are you? Why do you know my dog's name?" And I'm like, "Me and Griffin are friends."
I'm friends with your dog, sir.
Yeah, your dog is part of the neighborhood. You're clearly not. I've never seen you in my life, but I see your dog all the time. But I had a few
Yeah.
instances where it was just people were looking at me like, "I'm sorry, do I know you?" And I was like, "No. Like I'm from the neighborhood. You probably should, but I do know your
My
dog."
dog, my dog knows so many people. Like I
That's
will walk my dog. They'll be like, "Oh, it's Olive." I'm like, "Yeah, I don't remember you, human. I'm now having a conversation with, but
We
you
do
clearly
this
know my dog."
all the time. Like all the time, this is a conversation we have to have where people were like, "Oh, you've met Bruin?" And I'm like, "Yes, we have."
Like,
Many
yeah,
times.
live in this neighborhood and I know you kind of. I know
Kind
you
of.
through your dog.
Your dog has told me nothing about you.
Your dog doesn't have nice things to say about you. You and your dog need to start working on your relationship. It's not good.
It is alarming, like how much you can just like learn about people's pet, like and pets in the neighborhood without like their involvement. Like that dog Bruin, I can tell you that 3 years ago that dog tore its ACL and needed to get surgery, and it took. I know how long it took to heal. I know all this. I've never met Bruin's owner, but I know a lot about Bruin's life.
That's pretty amazing.
Like you can tell that I don't like people, but I do love animals.
Uh,
All right, so your turn for a state.
oh yeah, and I have our lovely home state of New Jersey. Uh, and I debated a little bit whether or not I was gonna do um the Jersey Devil, which is the most famous cryptid from New Jersey, or if I was gonna try and find something more obscure. But I ultimately decided the Jersey Devil is the way to go. That is New Jersey's favorite. It's my favorite cryptid from New Jersey, and even if it is probably one of the better known cryptids of North America, or at least I think so. But I don't know if I only think that because we're from New Jersey, and I'm just always going to think that people know who the Jersey Devil is. We talked this a little bit on the last episode. There's a lot of lore to the Jersey Devil that I think people probably do not know. Um, Oh, pick the Jersey Devil over, say, the Monkey Man of Hoboken. Maybe we'll talk about the Monkey Man of Hoboken another time. So, if you don't know, the Jersey Devil is a creature that lives in the Pine Barrens of southern New Jersey. Um, People don't realize that even though New Jersey has a reputation of being a basically one endless string of highways and cities, Uh, a lot of New Jersey is thick forest land, and it's known as the Pine Barrens. It's basically a pine tree forest that is so densely wooded, you can't make your way through it very easily. Probably best known, I think there was an episode of Sopranos, a show which I never watched, that took place in the Pine Barrens. But they are old, creepy forests. The Jersey Devil is a monster that inhabits the forest. It is often described as having the head of a horse or maybe a goat, something with like a long kind of equine style head, often described as having horns. It has wings, big, leathery wings like a bat. It has clawed arms, and again, probably like an animal body. I would say I read somewhere described as a kangaroo. I think that's probably the most fitting description of it. It's like a kangaroo's body. It has long hooved feet, or it has long legs with hooved feet and a forked tail. So this is a kind of like a chimera sort of thing. This animal just has all sorts of mismatched body parts. Um, the legend is the way that I understood it from my youth was it is the there was the Leeds family, which was a family in colonial New Jersey, and there is historical record to back up the Leeds family did they were a real family. And the story was they had 12 children, and the 13th child was due to be born. And the mother said something along the lines of it was going to be cursed to be the devil because it's the unlucky 13th child. And when the baby was born, the baby looked normal but quickly developed into this monstrous creature that still stalks the forest of the Pine Barrens to this day. The stories of the Jersey Devil, I mean, there's stories of monsters living in the Pine Barrens, I think going back to the time of the Native Americans, but stories of the Jersey Devil as it's described here, those start popping up in the early 1800s. And then they really kick off in the early 1900s. And he remains popular. There's always going to be counts of sightings of the Jersey Devil. Um, our hockey team is named after him, the New Jersey Devils. And you end up seeing he's all over pop culture. He's been in episodes of television shows. There was a PlayStation 1 video game, which is now a very long time ago. Um, but he remains a kind of a popular fixture of New Jersey culture and pop culture overall. So gonna give credit where credit's due to our favorite Jersey Devil.
Nice.
Yeah, did you ever see him out there down in the woods of southern New Jersey, Steve?
I
Did he ever
mean,
make his way to the coast?
well, I grew up nearish to the Pine Barrens. The Pine Barrens started like 20 minutes away from where I grew up, but just a little farther south. So like I don't know if it's from proximity or what, but yeah, there was like childhood worry of the Jersey Devil. I used to on nights I couldn't sleep, stare out my window and like look to see him flying because he's supposed to have wings.
Where you out there, Jersey Devil? Where you at, Jersey Devil?
Well, the thing was, like, if you saw him, he would come for you. So, of course, I looked for him because that's what children do. You tell them not to
Sure.
look, and then they do.
You're definitely gonna look because you want to see the monster. I'd love it if they would go ahead and just capture that old Jersey Devil.
Right?
He's out there somewhere.
I mean, Fox Mulder tried.
Oh right, I remember that. What was it? It was like a woman living in the forest, like a
Yes, it was like a wild woman, like a Mowgli. But
yeah. Yeah, a better remembered episode. Probably not one of my favorite episodes of The X-Files, but still seems like that's been one of the better remembered episodes of the show.
it was, I
It's like
think,
he had a little bit
season.
of a thing for her, I think.
Yeah, it was season 1 or 2. It was pretty early back when they were still, like, figuring it out.
It was definitely. Did you ever watch Sleepy Hollow, which ran on I want to say Fox for a number of years?
We watched the first 2 seasons and then just couldn't stick with
No,
it
that's fair.
anymore.
That was the correct. That was you made the correct choice on that. Yeah, I think there was an episode of that show that had the Jersey Devil. There was an episode of the Ghostbusters animated series revival that had a Jersey Devil. And that even went into some of the lore of it being connected to the iron industry of New Jersey. Because there was a story from one of the early sightings of the Jersey Devil that someone who made cannonballs tried to shoot it and it didn't work. And I remember the episode of Ghostbusters. It really centered around the fact that it was a iron-based ghost monster.
Hmm.
Not a lore. It's a good Wikipedia read. I can say as someone who's read the Wikipedia page several times over the last 2 weeks.
Again, I don't know if this was like all kids in New Jersey or if it was just proximity, but I did like multiple reports on the Jersey Devil growing up. Like that was a
Yeah,
grade school thing to do.
I wish they would teach. I don't think they still teach folklore in schools.
I wish they did. It would be amazing. It's the type of stuff I want
Yeah,
my kid to learn.
absolutely. There was one of my favorite movie tropes is when they're facing some sort of mythological creature and they go into the local college and they sit in a little bit of the professor's class and the professor's always teaching about that specific thing and all the main characters get a lesson in the monster and then they talk to the professor after class and they it's not real, these are just legends, and then it turns out, oh, it's totally real.
And that guy was involved.
Oh no, the professor was evil. I love that trope.
It's a good
Uh,
one.
yeah. But yeah, my fair. I love Jersey Devil. He should get his due a bit more.
Agreed. So what are you drinking with this Jersey Devil information?
Oh my god, a polar seltzer, grapefruit flavored. It is. I am so tired. I was like, am I gonna try making a drink? And I did not. I can't. If I tried making a drink, I would have fallen asleep halfway through my story about the Jersey Devil. So I wimped out and I just went with a polar seltzer for my drink tonight.
This week I was in the same boat, so I made Petra a drink and took a sip of it so I could review it and then gave it to her.
What was it?
So we've done it before, but I'm revisiting it because we did it back in season one, I think. I did a Canadian old fashioned
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah, I remember that one.
again because, like the middle aged man I am, I went to Costco over the weekend. And Costco has, there's a company named Crown that makes maple syrup, but they age it in bourbon barrels. So it's bourbon maple syrup. And I was like, that sounds delicious. And I bought it, and I'm going to use it a lot this winter. But
Mm.
even on the label, it says use it in cocktails and stuff. And I was like, you know what cocktail that I love takes maple syrup? The Canadian Old Fashioned. So I'm here with the
Oh.
Canadian Old Fashioned with Crown Bourbon Barrel Aged Maple Syrup. It is so good. Like, I already love these,
Oh.
but it's just the depth of flavor and the sweetness really, really balance. So you just take 2 ounces whiskey. I used Jim Beam Black. Uh, 2 tablespoons or 2 teaspoons of maple syrup. 2 dashes of bitters. Instead of using the orange peel, I used orange bitters.
Mm.
I two birds that, and then I have like giant cocktail ice cubes, and I just put one in the center of the glass and got it nice and cold, and it was really good. If you have a Costco membership, I recommend trying it. I'm gonna be experimenting with it a lot.
Lovely.
So we did Labyrinth finally.
Yeah, that's a lot. We were like 60 something episodes in. We hadn't done Labyrinth yet, so it
This
was
is
absolutely time.
episode 62.
Oh my goodness. I feel like there's a couple of things that we kind of held off because we didn't want to do them too early in the run of the series, and this is one that we've specifically waited a while to do.
Yes, and honestly, I hadn't seen it in a long time, and I've tried to show it to my son before this, and he wasn't into it, but he got really into it this time.
So there's been a couple of times I've tried to get my daughter to watch it, and the strategy I took this time was she was in the room, she was occupied, she was playing video games on her tablet or something. I'm like, I'm just gonna put this movie on, and we're gonna see how long it takes for her to engage with it. And he did not like I was so sad.
Oh no!
No, I mean she didn't like ask me to turn it off or anything. Um, but there was a point where she was like, "What is this movie?" And I was explaining to her, and she was just like, "These puppets are too creepy." And I was like, "You're creepy." She
Yeah.
didn't like it. It was like, "Well, I guess I know what I'll talk about on my show." Ugh, lame.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I disagree with her. I disagree with her assessment. She no, it was like there was a couple of scenes we were watching, and it's it's deep. She's deep into the labyrinth at this point, where it's maybe the helping hands, or it's Ludo, or it's Hoggle, and she's like, these puppets are creepy, and I was like, I disagree with your assessment.
I don't think I've ever met anyone who didn't like Labyrinth.
Yeah, I tell you, it was a first for me too. Um, I think it's because it's this. I love Labyrinth. I love the puppetry. I love the costumes. I think where it kind of struck my daughter as off is they do have that. Yeah, no, they're not cute Muppets. They're these sort. Yeah, they are monsters and they're cute in their own way, but they have that sort of realistic looking skin. A lot of them look monstrous, especially with the goblins and even Ludo. He looks like this big furry monster, but then you look at that face and it's like even if it's the height of 80s puppet work, it still has this sort of air of the uncanny valley of that era. Um, that you just don't see in kids media today, and I think it struck her differently than it struck us, who saw it as like a big furry Chewbacca monster. I think it's the skin on the face that probably did it.
This is another one, kind of like the never-ending story, or like where just the thought that went into the fantastical was just so cool. Like everything, I was like, I want to know more about almost everything that we meet. But Labyrinth is a type of movie where you don't have time for that.
Yeah, I mean it's such a rich setting, and we don't know much about the Goblin King. We don't know much about like the history of the monsters. It's clearly like this labyrinth has existed um for it seems eternity. Like it has existed for eons. There is a whole world here, and we're only getting enough of a glimpse of it at any given point for it to be more intriguing. It's like the more you catch of it, the more intriguing I feel it is. We It's such an epic story. Like it really like even if it's just like sent around this one person doing this one quest, it's such an amazing quest. It really feels the most like a D&D session I think of like any movie, especially at this time. It's incredible. I love everything about it.
Yes, this definitely had a big, weird D&D vibe of just like a trippy journey where you're just kind of, you don't even really know what the plan is. You're just going. I have you heard the conspiracy, not the conspiracy, the like the fan theory about Labyrinth?
Tell me it.
Um,
I may have heard it, but please
there's a
elaborate.
few of them, but the one that I'm talking about is the one where this is like a cycle. Jareth was like a magician a long time ago, and he was in love with like a woman named Sarah. And so he built this entire labyrinth and stuff for her, but because time works differently there, by time he got back, she was dead.
Hmm.
And so he keeps abducting Sarah's and basically sending them on the journey she was supposed to. That's why at the beginning, when she meets Hoggle, and he goes, "Who are you?" And she says, "Sarah." And he goes, "Of course you are." And he just keeps walking.
Oh, okay.
And because every once in a while, a Sarah has to basically do this, and like all the ones that have failed are the ones when she gets trapped in the ball, metaphorically and physically. After eating the apple, all the that is 90% women at that party. Those are like all Sarahs who didn't make it out in time.
Hmm.
And the old woman in the junkyard who is like collecting all of her things is a Sarah who lost there. Um, so there's like a deep lore thing that doesn't really have a lot of holes in it. It's a pretty cool thing. If you go by the original script, it doesn't work, but since none of that made it into the book or the movie,
Hmm.
it's still viable.
Okay, I could dig it.
I also like that this was filmed literally next door to Legend at the same time, and that's actually how Brian Henson met Mia Sara.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, because they would hang out on each other's sets because they were borrowing props and stuff.
It is. This is one of my favorites. Um, what do you, oh, what question do I have? What do you think about Sarah when we meet her? Watching this as,
As an
I'm a little
adult,
older now.
it's a lot cringier. And it's a lot more like your stepmother is not being unreasonable.
No, that's one of the things I was thinking when I was watching it this time too. I was like, "Oh, you need to calm down. You just Yeah, you're babysitting your brother while your dad and your stepmom are out. It doesn't it That's not so crazy. She's acting, I guess it's the being now closer in age to her parents than I am to her. Um, which was might not have even been true the last time I watched this. No, it had. I'm sure I've watched this in the last couple of years, but I don't watch this like every year. Um, I just wanted to tell her it's like you need to just watch your brother. Also, why are you? The movie opens up and she's rehearsing her play in full costume out in a park, and it's about to rain. I don't think she's super good at like planning ahead.
I mean, she's like 16.
True. She's very much a theater kid, and I say that as a former theater kid. I was like, oh, this is so she's really, really reacting to stuff in a big way that I think she needs to figure out why. I mean, maybe she's got beef with her step parent that we're not seeing.
Well, there
Um,
is. I didn't pick up on it as a kid, but I learned it as an adult. So when you're going through her room at the beginning, it's like the camera's panning through all her fantasy stuff. It ends on a bunch of newspaper clippings about her mother.
oh, I did not catch
And
that.
then it ends on her at the mirror, and there's a picture of her mother on the. There's a bunch of pictures of her mother on her mirror. Her
Hmm.
mother is a Hollywood actress who ran away with David Bowie.
What?
Yes, if you look at the newspaper clippings, it's all about like her mother's career and then like the scandal of her mom running off with this other actor that she was starring alongside, and then on her mirror there's like pictures of her and her mom, and then it's just her mom and David Bowie.
So she's dealing with some really misplaced anger.
Yes. Yeah, her mom, who she was
Oh.
clearly very close with, basically abandoned her, and her dad just started another family.
Okay, I think that explains a lot of why she's mad. She's angry at her stepmom. She's angry at her stepbrother because these are kind of represent the life.
Well, it's her half brother, isn't it?
Yeah, oh, yeah, half brother. I'm sorry, not stepbrother. They're representing the life she didn't get to live with her movie star mother. And it also makes sense that it puts Jareth as this, David Bowie as this seducer character, like trying to steal her away from the life she does have. I don't know. I mean, I didn't need to think that through a little bit further, but that makes a lot of sense for why she'd react in these ways.
Yeah, it's so subtle. I learned that from like a fun fact thing like a year ago. I didn't, and I knew to look for it this time. I never noticed it, and I've seen Labyrinth so many times. I've even seen Labyrinth with like Pink Floyd overlaid it. Like,
Is that a thing? I've never heard that before.
yeah, when I was in high school, actually, the film club did a night one time where there's like three different movies that sync up to Dark Side of the Moon, and I'm pretty sure Labyrinth is one of, or maybe Labyrinth is something else, but like the opening of Labyrinth until she gets to the Goblin City lines up with a different soundtrack.
Oh, that's wild. I mean, I've done that with Dark Side of the Moon and Wizard of Oz
Yeah,
and was blown away.
we did 2001, we did Wizard of Oz, and then we did something with Labyrinth, but I do not remember what movie is supposed to play over it. But it does work. Like when the car drives by, you even hear a car when she's running
Oh, that's
home in the
wild.
rain. Because I was just like, guys, it's probably just a coincidence. And I was like, the sound effects are lining up.
But
Um,
that's one of those things where I was in an interview with Pink Floyd. And they were asking them about that with the Wizard of Oz, and then someone asked him, "It's like, did you do this on purpose?" He goes, "No, we didn't have a copy of Wizard of Oz. You didn't have copies of movies back then. Then we would have had to set up a whole projection system into the studio. There's no way we were going to do that."
yeah,
I guess it's a little more believable that you could have a vinyl copy of Dark Side of the Moon in the editing booth when you're putting together Labyrinth.
yeah, and
I'd have to see. I'd have to see it to comment.
I'm not sure if it's Dark Side of the Moon, but it is something like that. Um, yeah, no, it's good though. David Bowie's good. Jennifer Connelly looks so young.
I know.
It
And
is.
she's aged. She's barely aged. She looks very very similar today that she looked in this movie. It looks, but you see her here, it's like, oh, you're a baby. You're like a child in this movie.
Yeah, I hadn't seen it in at least a decade, I think, and it was like, oh wow, of that amount of time really adds a gap. I was like, you're just a baby, like, but she did a great job. I mean, the movie still holds up. The only scene that didn't fully hold up, and it's because I'm on like a 4K TV, is the Muppet scene with the heads getting ripped off.
The the fire puppet bird looking things.
Yes, yeah, that blue screen.
I agree. That doesn't that I was thinking the same thing. It does not look as good as it used to.
Yeah, 4K is not kind to that. There's a reason we moved over to green screen. Um, like it's still a very cool sequence, but it was still very clearly blue
That was
screened.
another one my daughter was like, "This is terrible. How can you have this on in the room with a child in it?" And I was like, "I love this movie at your age. What are you talking about?" But yeah, the fire puppets really creeped her out too.
That was the only part where my son got like a little scared, but he wrote it out.
There's so many things in this movie I think are scarier than that. It's funny that both of our kids picked up on that being, I guess they're more threatening than a lot of things. I
It's
always find the helping hands to be the creepiest scene in the movie with those so like
they
hand gesture
give
puppets.
they give choice though. The goblins, not the goblins, the fire puppets weren't, and that's like body horror. The helping hands is it's a different type of horror, I'd say.
Yeah, I just found the helping hands to be outright scarier, whereas the music sequence, the song sequence for those dismemberment monsters, I don't even know what to call them. They're like dismemberment firebirds. It felt more like a music video of that era.
Yes, it did. Like it seems like they were like, "All right, and we're filming the music video for Labyrinth for promotional use, and we're gonna put it in the movie too."
Yeah, and that was Cat
Oh, it
from Red Dwarf.
was.
Yeah, it does one of does like I think the main voice of the main singing puppet in that scene. And I think that would have been probably about the same time. I'd have to look this up. There was a song from Red Dwarf that ended up hitting um as a pop hit that he did. It makes kind of sense that that felt so much more disconnected from the rest of the movie because it gets shot as like its own standalone music video.
Are you talking
And then
tongue-tied?
yeah, tongue tied. That was what. Yeah, it stands out as kind of like an off sequence. Are you
Yeah.
looking up tongue tied now?
No, 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 no. You
Oh,
actually, I never even saw Red Dwarf until you showed it to me on spring break of senior year at college. And you showed me the first episode, and you showed me the tongue-tied episode.
oh my God.
Yes.
I can't believe you remember that well. That was like 20 years ago.
Um, I think it was my first time to DC of my own volition. Like, not on a class trip, not with my family. You know what I mean? Like, I was on spring break. I remember most of that spring break pretty well.
Oh, that
Um,
was a fun trip.
yeah. Yeah, it was a great trip. I actually took a 2 week spring break that year. I took the week before off and went down to Florida, spent a week there, and then I actually, like, stopped at DC with you and then drove up to Boston. So I did, like, a whole East Coast thing. But
All right, tongue tied. Tongue tied was 88. Okay, so Labyrinth was actually 2 years earlier. So if anybody wants to look up an interesting Red Dwarf video, if anybody is a big fan of Red Dwarf, I know you all are.
this
Tongue tied,
is
1986.
it's a solid
Or
song.
88.
There's two versions of it. There's the song from the show, and then there's the actual like radio single. Um, Both good. I think I have both on my iTunes list. Okay, so Labyrinth was. I do want to read the book now. I normally I don't care about novelizations of these type of things, but so much ended up getting cut out of this movie, and like it's in the book. Not all of it, but enough of it. Like the two doors with the knockers. I've
Hmm.
always, since I was a little kid, been like, she doesn't even try the one with the ears. And in the book, she does that first, and it's the wrong way, and like bad stuff happens. And I'm like, oh, cool. So, like, all these little questions I had, a lot of them get answered in the book, which is nice. So I'll be reading that.
I've always been surprised by the lack of additional media. I know they did the novelization, they've done comic books for this, and there's always talk of a second movie. I feel like it comes up every few years. There's talk of a Labyrinth 2 being made, and it never happens. I kind of hope it never does.
You can't do it without Jim Henson and Terry Gilliam and David Bowie. Like,
Yeah. There's just no movie. I think especially with David Bowie being dead, there's no way to do it well.
yeah, and with the thing with David Bowie, like, he's the most easily replaceable part in that Jareth only looked that way because that, like, it's very much a Peter Pan where Captain Hook looks like the darling children's father.
Mm.
Like, he looks like that because he's the villain that stole her mother and now he's stealing her brother. So you could basically almost pull like a Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus, and he looks different for everyone on that side.
Oh, okay. I'd buy that if I was going to if
But
I was in the market for a Labyrinth too.
you still don't have Jim Henson. The first draft of the script was written by Terry Gilliam, and then they made so many changes that they were like, "This is now a bad movie," and they had to bring it back to him to fix and make funny again. Um, and I don't know. I feel like he's not as good anymore. I just feel like all the people that made it magical wouldn't be a part of it.
Yeah.
I don't know if George Lucas would come back for it. There's just a
Be
lot of.
interested. It'd be even what would even the story be? Like I mean I feel like the story could be so many different things, but the way this movie ends, I mean I always take it as this is her a figment of her imagination,
Yes, everything that
specifically.
appears in there is in her room.
Right. And that's all there before the movie happens. I think we can very and I very much believe this is a dream. It's unambiguously a dream once the story is over. She wakes up and she still like retains the kind of magic that she got from these characters. She knows she doesn't have to give them up because it's a lot about her not wanting to give up um childish things because she has a younger brother now. She still wants to keep that magic alive in herself, and I think that the movie is her working through her decision that she can keep that magic alive in herself, but it is a figment of her imagination. It's not real. And I think if you did a sequel, it has to make the labyrinth real. I don't think that works.
Yeah, in the original Labyrinth script, it was not all a dream. They changed it to be like a happier, more upbeat ending.
Mm.
And again, that really makes it harder because I know that I didn't read the graphic novel. I heard it wasn't very good from a few people that I know that read it, but it follows Toby going back as like an adult or a teen or something. And like there's limitless possibilities. You don't even need to follow a person. You could just have like stories from the labyrinth, and like we just get to peek into different parts that we didn't see.
Yeah,
Um,
I think I would like that better. Just like give me a little bit, flesh out what is already there over trying to do a whole new second adventure, which I think would just be lackluster.
yeah, yeah. Let me focus on because there was like a whole scene where there's like a bar where the old guy with the bird is, and the bird's like giving a lecture at the bar, and like all these and Hoggle's drinking there, and I'm like, show us these random little things that are all around. Like, tell me more about the junkyard. The junkyard in the original script was actually supposed to be a town. Like, and just so much just got cut for time and this and that. And I'm like, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's not there. You can still take us there. Like, Luke never got to the Tashi station, but we still know it was there. It's just it's so good. It holds up so well, and there's so much more to be done with it. And you're right. I don't think I ever want them to, though, because
Yeah,
if no one ever touches it, then it still has the potential to be great.
right. It would be really sad for them to do a second movie now or a TV series and then have it out there and it just being disappointing. Especially since it itself it wasn't a big hit at the time. It kind of has held on and had a cult status over the years, but like, at the time it was never a big hit. Um, I think it got bigger as it got on home media and people were able to discover it. I with something like that, I don't think there's only a small dedicated fan base to it. It's not a massive fan base. So I'm happy with what we have. I wouldn't want to yeah, I don't want to see a second movie. I don't think it would be for anybody other than trying to capitalize on the cult status of this movie and then it would just end up being a flop.
Agreed. And yeah, one of the things that makes this magical is the only real CGI in this was the owl, which was the first attempt at a photorealistic CGI animal in a feature film. But otherwise, it was practicals. And they wouldn't do that now. And I mean, this world looks lived in. The labyrinth looks real.
Beat
And
up and dirty.
yeah, I mean, it's the problem like Star Wars episodes 4, 5, and 6. The world, due to the low budget, but the world is dirty. The world looks lived in. And then you jump back to the prequel trilogy, and everything is too bright and too clean
Yeah.
because they lean too much into the CGI aspect of it.
I think that was where Mirror Mask, the attempt at like a spiritual successor, that's one of the places I think it didn't work as well for me. It just all this computer generated imagery just ended up looking too smooth and flat. Even if they were going for a kind of dirty lived in world there, it didn't end up working
Agreed.
because of the computer animation.
Although, watching this after Mirror Mask, there were several points where I was like, wow, you can really see that they wanted to recapture this.
Yeah, yeah, watching them so recently, you could really feel it. Like this is what you could really see what they were trying to do, and it just your mess wasn't gonna get there.
Yeah, which adds more fuel to the fire of don't make a sequel to this.
Yeah, leave this alone. It's been close to 40 years. No, it's been yeah, getting close to 40 years. We can leave this one be. It is perfectly fine to just pick up whenever you have a rainy day and you have a movie, you need a comfort watch movie. It's a great comfort watch movie.
Yes.
Um, but don't Willow this. Don't Dark Crystal this. Those are two properties where they took a cult favorite and did one of those much later sequels that you can't even watch the Willow sequel. That's only been out for like 2 years. Maybe not even. You can't find it. They took it offline. I don't know if the Dark Crystal one is still up, but I don't think nobody's seeking that out at this point.
Oh no. I hope I have the entire Willow.
I watched the first couple of episodes. I liked it well enough. I think I would have gone back to it when I had time, but it was already they scrubbed it after like a couple of months.
Yeah, it was really
Um,
poorly received.
yeah, I think that's a problem. I mean, that's the big problem with streaming is if stuff doesn't hit right away, they'll cancel it, and then if it really doesn't hit right away, they will just remove it from the internet to save the server space or the royalties from having to get paid out to the actors or whatever reason they have for removing that sort of stuff.
I have all of both on my Plex, so if you'd like to finish them, they are there.
I don't think I'm ever gonna bother.
This
It's
is
like,
why
why
I,
would I pick that up?
yeah,
Hmm?
this is why I have my server because I'm so tired of shows disappearing forever. You never know what's going to disappear. So,
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, it gets pulled, and then you can't watch it anymore. And the problem is, there's plenty of times where I want to let a show run for a couple of years so I can watch the whole story in one go. But every time somebody makes the decision to do that, you kind of hurt your chances that the show will go long enough for you to go back and rewatch.
yeah, I'm real tired of shows getting canceled on like a cliffhanger, no resolution.
Yeah. But you don't need to worry about that with Labyrinth because it's a single movie.
I've seen Labyrinth dozens of times, and it still holds up. Like, I could go put it on right now.
It made me want to like go visit the little town that she's in. I was like, oh my God, this town is so cute. I want to go to this town to see if maybe I could accidentally end up in the labyrinth. And I think it's the town on the western side of the Hudson after you go over the Como Bay. Like for me, like coming over the Como Bay Bridge in New York State. I
Sleepy
think it's the
Hollow?
next. No, it's the town across the water from Sleepy Hollow.
Oh, okay. So on the New York side.
Yeah, yeah, on the western. I don't know. Yeah, it's the town across from Sleepy Hollow on the from the Hudson over the Hudson.
Okay. Petra would
Is
know
where they
that
shot this.
off the top of her head because her
Yeah,
old boss has a house there, but I do not remember the name of it.
and I've passed through those towns a couple of times. Like if I stopped on my way home and grabbed something to eat in one of those towns, or there was a day that my wife and I went down. We just like hung out around Sleepy Hollow, and then we went over the bridge and got food. And it is so cute in that area.
It's a nice area. That's around where I went to college.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's not too far from there.
Yeah, we accidentally crossed that bridge several times going the wrong direction trying to come home from the mall, which sucks because it's a toll bridge.
Yeah, it's a long one too. Yeah, I would absolutely say it's worth watching, but I don't get mad if your kids don't want to watch it. That's the thing that's so hard. It's like I really wanted to enjoy this with my daughter because I love this movie so much, and she just wasn't. She sat while I watched it. She sat in the same room with me and would engage for a brief moment and then say, "No, this is creepy," and she'd tune out.
Yeah, my son, as usual, was like, I am not interested in that. And we were like, all right, well, we're going to watch it. You play with Legos or whatever. And very quickly, he was on the couch, intently watching. So
That's nice.
it's really
I
cool.
don't think I don't. Whenever we do a Dark Crystal episode, I don't think I'm gonna even. Yeah, I'll see. I'll try the same move. I'll see if she gets into it, but I don't think she will.
Yeah, we probably have Halloween and Christmas coming, not Halloween, Thanksgiving and Christmas episodes coming up. So January, I would be totally down.
All
T
right, January we'll do some Dark Crystal. So see
Nice.
how it works out.
It's always so stressful showing your kid one of like your favorite movies because you always have to be like, what if they hate it?
Right. It's like I feel like I have so much. I have so much riding on the interaction.
Yeah,
It's like It will justify my love of this if you also love it. But if you don't like it, I'm gonna feel like I've somehow lost touch with you.
That's the thing. I've always dreamed of like sharing these movies with my kids, and if my kids hate them, I've raised them wrong.
Right. We haven't touched Star Wars yet. And, she knows Star Wars a little bit because Baby Yoda was basically a meme. Like, so she has some Baby Yoda stuff, but we haven't sat down and watched A New Hope. I feel
He,
like by the time I was her age, I was already into Star
oh
Wars
yeah, I don't remember a
in
time
a
without
real
Star
way.
Wars.
Yeah. But I think if I tried to get her to watch it, she'd be like, "No, I'm not watching this." I don't think there's like I don't know that there's anything in it for her because there's something about it that's cute. Like if Labyrinth was not cute in a way that she could get into, like there's no chance she's gonna want to like watch Star Wars. I don't think she's into any media that doesn't directly involve a unicorn right now.
Oh, I mean, you can always do the Last Unicorn.
I don't think I've seen that since I was little,
I
and
haven't
I
seen it
feel
since I was
like
15.
is it? It's about um puberty, right? It's a metaphor for puberty, if I'm
I
understanding.
mean, I was going through puberty last time I saw it, so sure, I think that's right.
Maybe I mean like maybe like women's puberty. I remember learning somewhere that it was metaphor for menstruation. So maybe I should get her to watch The Last Unicorn. Get her acclimated to those sorts of things now, a couple of years ahead of time.
Well, Last Unicorn is on our list for eventual projects.
Oh, that's right.
We're just creating
All
our own
right.
economy.
We make our own fun.
Yeah. My son, we haven't done Star Wars yet. This went so well that we actually had the discussion that we think he could start Star Wars. We were like, I think we could try episode 4. He did really well with Labyrinth. Um,
There's so much ancillary media for Star Wars that is geared towards kids. Like there was a Star Wars cartoon that came out just this year that was aimed at young kids. That was another one that my daughter didn't get into. That's the sort of like, oh, we're young Jedi and we're in training. We're gonna go have adventures. And this, don't worry, this is set hundreds of years before,
before Order
before episode.
66.
Yes, this is set hundreds of years before Order 66. So we all grow old and die of old age and not slaughtered mercilessly.
Yeah, my son has seen episode 2. Um,
Oh, really?
yeah,
What a
I
choice!
last Christmas we were at my mom's and we were like, all the adults were hanging out around like the dining room table talking and stuff. And the kids were all in the den watching TV, and so he's in there with his cousins. They're all older than him. They're old. They babysit him. They're old enough to watch him. So I'm like, whatever. Like I'm not, but I did wander in there eventually, and they were like 2/3 of the way through episode 2, and he was glued to the screen. And I'm like, all right, this is the worst movie in the series. So you're either going to love Star Wars because if you like this, oh man, or you're gonna hate Star Wars because you like this. I do not know which.
All right, well, I guess it's good to get episode 2 out of the way early.
Yeah, I mean, back then he was not quite 4 yet, so it was just a lot of shiny colors and explosions, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty in the this movies to keep a kid's eye on the screen without them getting too much into the weak plot. They don't care about sand.
Yeah, they don't care
Like
about
it's
sand
everywhere.
at all.
It's it's everywhere. I remember seeing episode 2 in theaters and being like, "What did I just watch?"
I missed episode 2 in theaters. I saw episode 1 in theaters. I didn't see episode 2 at all. And my friends were like, we're going to see 3. And I was like, I haven't seen 2 yet. And they were like, don't.
Don't bother.
This will be fine. it will give you all the information at the beginning that you need to know what has happened between the end of episode 1 and the beginning of episode 3. I was like, okay.
Yeah. No, that's the way to go.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of, oh, who is it? Toby Maguire has a cut?
No, it was
Topher Grace?
Topher Grace. Topher Grace did a cut.
I want to see Topher Grace's cut. He took episodes 1, 2, and 3 and cut it into like a 3 hour movie. And it's supposed to be, from all accounts from the people who have seen it, a really good, like, they cut out all the stupid stuff. They cut out all the unimportant stuff. It is just a solid Star Wars movie.
No, I've heard that too. I would love to see Topher Grace's cut of the first three movies.
I'm like, I need to go through my 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon, see how close I am to Topher Grace, and see what I need to do to see this cut.
It's one of those funny things. It's like, well, if he did that, who did he do that for? If it doesn't get screened anywhere, he just did that for fun. I guess when you're that, you're a certain level of celebrity, you can just sort of do those things for the heck of it.
I think, I don't know if it was when he had his first kid, or I know he was like stuck at home for a chunk of time, and it was like just a project he did since he was stuck at home.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. I'd say it was the pandemic, but I'm pretty sure it's been around long before the
No, it
pandemic.
was early, it was early in the pandemic.
So,
Yeah, it was before then.
yeah, so I don't know what prompted him to, but God, I want to see it. But anyway, yeah, anything else you want to talk about with Labyrinth?
No, it's a great one to go revisit. Don't get mad if your kids don't like it.
Yeah, I mean, you can try again in a few years. I mean, get her into David Bowie or something. Use him as a gateway.
Yeah, I like that. I'll give that a shot.
All right, where can they find us, Sam?
They can find us on Facebook and Instagram. We are at RTSpiritsPod. If you have any thoughts about Labyrinth, or if you have anything you think that we should cover in the future for spooky things to watch with your kids, please let us know at those two spaces at RTSpiritsPod.
Thank you for joining us as always. I'm Steve.
I'm Sam.
And we'll see you soon.
Good night.